get a good lawyer, basically, because there's a lot of things that the lawyer builds into
All
the
that
contract
lawyer lingo.
to get you out of it. If you have a good lawyer,
But get an actual real estate lawyer. Don't
Yes.
get like
Yeah.
the VidCon stories of,
Yeah,
hey,
exactly.
I'm going to ask the real estate lawyer about this Hollywood, like this
if
entertainment
you've got a
stuff.
good lawyer in your house buying process, he or she has built a way for you to get out of it at any time. Mm-hmm. If you've got a really good
So
one.
like any part of the process, you could be like, I'm done.
Yep. If you got a good one, they can get you out of it at any time.
Well, what's up, real MVPs, and also patrons of MVP.
Yeah.
That was our little intro. I don't know where I'm going to cut it. I'm going to find a way.
At some point, there's going to be house discussion.
I wanted a little bit of running start into the podcast. And for this one, I was like, I'm not exactly sure. The other one, Mark and I did episode 2. Game of Thrones was easy. Let's just start the discussion and not really get into it until the podcast started. But in case you're new to this and are listening to this after July 15th, 16th, around that time, this is the MVP podcast. This is episode 3 of that podcast. And I know you're like, well, Mark, and you were on the other one. You were supposed to get different people. We will. It's a work in progress. It's only the 3rd episode. Patrons are seeing this before. Like, patrons are seeing this July 2nd and on. So patrons get to see it obviously earlier. Usually it's the month before and the month after, but things have been kind of crazy in June. And this is a sentimental episode of the podcast, Mark, because David comes. Well, first, you came to me. I'm not going to say exactly what it is until I'm ready to reveal that news.
Yeah.
I'm hoping if I don't reveal it, you'll just change your mind and stay. Well, I just spoiled it there. But so Dave came to me and said, we should do a special podcast for the MVP one, episode 3. And I said, you're right. And I asked you if you were able to do it tonight, and you said you were. I asked Dave.
Yeah.
Mark, look at the camera with me. Shake your head. Shake your head like you're doing no. Yeah, it's a Dave, because Dave is obviously not here.
Yeah.
I don't know why Dave isn't here. He didn't give me a reason, so I am to assume he has a hot date. That is the only excuse that I will take.
Probably.
Hot date. If he didn't get a match on Bumble or Tinder, but I think he's on Bumble, and is not at the date right now,
Yeah.
because Dave's that kind of guy. He'll go on the date, and if it's bad, he won't tell you until like years later. But if it's good, he'll tell you right away. Or not years later, like a couple weeks later.
Yeah.
He won't tell you right away if it's bad.
That's what this podcast is going to be about. It's going to be about Dave.
Unless it's like comically bad. But we are having this podcast because Mark is sadly leaving us at
Very true.
MVP. And Mark, I'm going to give you the floor to kind of give your why everything, like why you're leaving, what's going on, and why you're leaving us, why you're making us very sad people.
Basically, I'm like, fuck these guys. At some point, I'm like, I'm done with this. So it's been alluded to before that, you know, I have the long commute to the studio and stuff like that, but is making life more difficult. This past year, I've been working a job that takes me about like an hour and a half to get to, and especially to get home. So it's been a long commute, basically. So, and my wife and I work in very different parts of the Chicago area. And literally I work on the north, like, you know, far north side. She works on the far south side of Chicago. And to make life easier as you're married and the things you do to make life easier for each other, she got a job far north. And I actually almost just said, buy this. And then I decided, you know what, I'm not going to do that.
Very outcasty there.
Yeah. And then, so she's working on the north side as well. So we are going to end our time being South Siders and become North Siders.
Well, you're
we're
always
moving.
South Siders at heart.
Yeah, we're moving, because if not, it will take my wife over 2 hours to get to work.
Oh, it's not a bad drive at all. Just
right?
slap on a couple podcasts.
For a little bit when we first and I like audio, I love audiobooks. So like I don't mind my commute. When my commute was like at around an hour, not bad.
One podcast.
Then that traffic, that traffic kills you. And the construction just like, I was literally timing it where like some of these days, like I'm home and awake for like 3 hours and then that's it. So like, we were like, we have to move. For a little bit, my wife was like, well, we can save money if I just commute for a while, like to my new job. And I'm like, I don't think you realize how big of a commute
Well, are you going to be saving
be.
that much on gas?
No, especially, we did the math on it. We literally were like, well, what if we sold our house that we have now and like moved in with one of like my in-laws or my parents? Would have been the in-laws because our dog hates cats and my parents have cats. But
you can't have anything happen to Thor and Loki.
No. Well, Thor's not around anymore, actually.
Really?
Just Loki and Peanut now. Oh. They got a new cat.
God, I remember when we did the Q&A video and we talked about Thor and Loki.
Thor's a wonderful cat. He was a wonderful kitty. He had a if you want to have a depressing podcast, like Thor's story is kind of sad. Actually, it's really sad.
Depending on how depressing we want to go, we might have you tell that.
Right, well,
today.
I'm going to do it right now. No, it's actually a really sad story, and it's a good reason why you should hug your pets. So he had like an aneurysm in his spine or something like that, or like like a blood clot in his spine or something like that.
Yeah.
So he, in an instant, and he happened to be going up the basement stairs, lost any like mobility in his back legs,
and he was just like, fuck.
And he fell down the stairs, and he literally like crawled himself up the stairs
with his just front 2 legs.
Yeah, and then my mom like just fed the cats, assumed that it was something like toxic or poisonous in the food, so grabbed both cats, like didn't even put them in a carrier or anything, just grabbed the cats and went. And it's like late at night. So she's driven, and Thor was gone by the time she even got there.
Wow.
And the worst part for my mom, because I obviously didn't live there at the time, is the doctor was like, well, you know what? He had this, and it went to, there's like 2 places it can go. It's like, it went to the not as bad one, and then this is what happens. And Mom was like, no, that's not what happened. It went to the one that you just said is the more painful way for the cat to go, like, which is unfortunate. But
like with him losing,
completely lost the mobility in his back legs. Apparently, it's very painful too. So it was like the vet thought she was saying something good, and
after he was trying to come up the stairs with just 2 of his 4 legs.
Poor little kitty. All of our cats have gone in not great ways.
Really?
One of our cats, like just lungs kept filling up with fluid, so she had to get put down. Another one just got he was living to a long age, an old age, and he just got so weak, like, the fat and everything and muscle was just falling like off of his body. Yeah. Just like sagging off of him, and he was just, at the end, like he had no... Like, he wouldn't go anywhere. He would just hang out on my bed, and that was about it.
Well, that's like with me. I have not, I have not experienced a pet death since, like, right now we have 3 dogs. Luck we got around sophomore year of high school.
Yeah.
So what, since like 04,
Did
05?
your sister take Buddy?
No, she did not.
Okay.
Buddy is still at our house.
So it's not, it definitely is not her dog.
No, it's my mom's dog.
Yeah.
Yeah. My sister moved, so she doesn't live at home.
And she brought home a dog one day.
She bought Buddy, which is our youngest, and he's the golden retriever that we've got. Went and bought him, and it was a whole big thing of, is she going to take him when he leaves? She did not. He is still at home. She has not fought to. But I think the reason why is her and her boyfriend's name is Jake. They are now cat people.
Oh, good people.
Because he had 2 cats.
Yeah.
So she adopted 2 cats. I am definitely not a cat person. It's not. I am not as bad as I used to be. When I used to be, like, I hated cats. Like, get that fucking thing away from me.
Oh, cats are great.
Now I'm more of like, I respect you for being a cat person, but I could never live with a cat.
I love cats. They're great.
It's like I
love
see
my
on
dog,
Facebook.
but...
You don't live with a cat lives with you.
Yeah. I love my dog, but cats are great. Anyways, so we're moving is the moral of the story. And we're going to be
after
quite
this
far
depressing
away.
story, we're moving.
Yeah, we're going to be pretty far away, so it just doesn't work to keep going. I mean, those are, that's life. That's being married. be in places where you don't have to spend forever driving is kind of nice.
Well, and that's the thing of like, and I started to think about it a little bit because of your just like ever since you told me, yeah, you know what, I'm not going to because at first you laid it down in levels, Mark. You're like, okay, let me lay the stones here. Where you're like, hey, you know what? I don't know when it's going to happen, but you know what? If we have to move, I'm going to have to not be able to. And then like after a while, okay, it's going to be for sure that we're moving. So it was like, okay, Mark's time is going to be ending this summer with us. And I thought in this episode to kind of brighten things up, what Dave wanted to do is kind of talk about and reminisce about all of our kind of...
In honor of Dave.
In honor of Dave, we will reminisce. Because you and I were actually... It was kind of... It's not like, oh, funny story how we met.
Yeah.
But it's like... We were not like... Went to college together, knew each other growing up. It was like, no... I had been at St. Xavier. I think you met me when I was starting my master's. Like, I was done with my undergrad at that point.
I don't remember if you were just...
Because that was 2013, wasn't it?
No, I graduated in 2013.
No, so then it was during my undergrad. You're right.
Yeah.
We met before? No, we didn't. You graduated in 2013?
I graduated in 2013, yeah.
Then was it 2012 then we...
Probably would have had to have been.
Was it the beginning of 2012 then?
I got here... No, I think I started in a spring semester. Yeah, I started at St. Xavier in a spring semester.
Okay.
So it had to have been early-ish.
Because what was weird is... So we started... I got to look up Giants-Patriots again. What was that? Is that the 2010 Super Bowl? Did Brandon?
2011. Yeah, because our first was 2013.
Yeah.
Ravens and 49ers.
Because ours was the second. No, it wasn't so the one that Dave and I and Brandon did was the one on February 5th, 2012. That was the Super Bowl that we started the onside kick.
Yeah.
It was not MVP. But basically... Brandon, Dave, and I did that for a semester.
Yeah. You guys remember Brandon?
Yeah, we did that for a semester or so. And then it was because we were both at a radio station at our college, and you came on as you were my producer.
Yeah.
I'm not dreaming.
The weird thing is when I came... So I was doing internet radio. Before this,
Uncensored Sports
with Kyle and Brad from the Outcast. If you guys remember, Kyle and Brad.
Yeah,
that's just the thing I'm going to say all the time. Yeah, well, yeah, I should say that Buzz and Juice. Juice. You guys remember them.
Juice.
So I done internet radio with them. And actually, the weird way it all started is it's all about social media. Was I one day decided. I'm going to make a Facebook friend group, like just of my friends, a Facebook group of the people I know who like sports. And we're going to be in this group. We're going to talk about sports. And from that, Brad, I had been really good friends with Brad since like middle school. And Kyle, I knew Kyle from middle school too. And we were, this is college. So I hadn't seen Brad in a while. And Brad was like, hey man, you should come over to Jamie's house. Jamie was his wife, now his girlfriend at the time. So come over to Jamie's house. We're watching the Bulls. I want you to come and we'll hang out and we're going to talk. And Brad's weird like that where like he'll like...
It's an elaborate plan.
Yeah, it's always plans and stuff like that. He's like, we'll talk. And like that something's up. But we're there, we're just hanging out. And eventually he lays out his master plan to make Uncensored Sports like this, basically Bleacher Report is what he's trying to make. And I'm like, yeah, it's cool. I'll definitely write. I like to write. We'll write about sports. And it was about writing about sports. And then somehow radio got involved. Internet radio got involved. We were on some network. And we did it. And it was fun. It was cool. Sabotage was the theme song for that, which is always a great theme song if you need something to walk out.
Sabotage.
Like in your wedding or something. So it's awesome. And yeah, it was cool, whatever. We did it for a while. It was a lot of fun. And then we stopped. And I was doing a little bit of podcasts. And I was doing the writing thing. And I was like, all right, cool. I like to write. I finished at my junior college. I'm going to a local-ish college, and they've got a newspaper, and I'm gonna write for the newspaper, and this is my plan. So I email Pete, who you guys remember Pete? He's been on
podcasts.
Yeah, he's been on like wrestling stuff and things like that.
He was our boss.
Yeah, Pete was our boss, and I emailed Pete, and I was like, "Hey, Pete, I want to write for the Xavier Right, is what it was called. I want to write for the Xavier Right." And he's like, "Cool, let's meet, and we'll do this, and we'll talk about this." And I'm like, "Cool." So I go, and he's like, "All right," I get there. He's like, "Let me show you the radio station." And in my head, I'm thinking, that's weird. I'm here to write about the thing, but yeah, I'm totally into music. Let's check out this radio station. And like, he's talking to me about the radio station nonstop, and he's like, "Do you want to go on the air right now?"
Pete's more of a radio guy than a paper guy.
Yeah, but he's like, "Do you want to go on the air?" And I'm like, "Yeah, sure." He's like, "What do you want me to play?" And I'm like, "I'll play some Coheed." And he plays Coheed, and I'm like, "This is really cool." So, and we never talked about the Xavier Right. Not once. And he was just like, I think he just didn't remember why I was there and just assumed it was for the radio station.
That happens.
Because why would anyone want to write when they can be on the radio?
When they can be on the radio. Exactly.
And then from there, whatever, I went to a meeting that we had. It was for a radio station. And he was going to put me, and this is not a knock on BC. He was going to put me on BC's show, The Jungle.
Which, The Jungle, for those of you who don't know, is hair metal, 80s rock metal.
Because Pete was like, "You like rock music.
Like glam."
You know, he's probably thinking, "You like Coheed. That guy's got big hair. Here you go."
Welcome to the jungle.
Right? And I'm like, all right, whatever. And then somehow we got talking, like Pete introduced me to you or something, and he's like, "Well, you could go on Ricky's show. You might like that better."
I thought I remembered you were there when I was doing my show.
No, it was at a meeting.
Okay.
It was at one of those like staff meeting kind of things in the summer. Or maybe it wasn't the summer though. I don't really remember. I started school, I thought, in the spring semester, but I don't know. I'm old, so.
So I figured out the timeline, by the way.
Yeah.
The first time you were on an MVP podcast, I should say.
The Onside Kick.
It was the Onside Kick. That podcast went up January 29th, 2013. That was the one we did over Skype.
Yeah.
It was Dave, myself, and you did it over Skype. I remember that night because I was sitting in my room, and my girlfriend at the time, I was like, "Hey, I got to go do this. Here's the remote. You can watch TV. I will be back. I have to do this." And she would pop in now and then. "Are you done yet? Are you done yet?" And I'm like, "No,
go away.
Not done yet." That's a relationship I'll get into another day, another time. So that was January 29th, 2013. We didn't make the first video to go up on the MVP channel was March 22nd, 2014.
Yeah.
Because we took a ride. I know we're not there yet, but we took a ride to get to those two places.
There's a lot of... And the thing was, like... So you and I started on radio together. Like, you were already doing radio. I was your producer. And for those... The producer was just training.
We could talk sports.
Yeah.
You were into the reality MTV shows. Like, I love the Jersey Shore and stuff. You were a Real World and
the Challenge.
Road Rules guy.
Yeah,
The challenge is basically Road Rules, right?
Well, the challenge is Real World Road Rules Challenge. Like, it's the stars of those shows. The problem is Road Rules hasn't existed for, like, I don't know, 20 years or something like that. So they've run out of those guys, and then they had to include stuff like Are You the One and stuff.
And I was really into, like, the MTV shows like Parental Control.
Best. Next is the best. Parental Control was cool.
Parental Control
Room Raiders
was
cool. Next was... so awesome. Next,
fucking forgot about Room Raiders was such a good one where I was like, God, never put me on that show because they'd walk in and go, "This is a mess. I am leaving."
Out. They're like, if MTV just put together a collection of like Next, Parental Control, Room Raiders, stuff like that, I would buy it in a heartbeat. I don't care how many they release. I would buy every single one of them.
If they came out with a streaming service, you would buy it if those
MTV is one of those ones where I would... if they promised me every season of The Real World and Road Rules was on it, and like Next and stuff like that, if all that stuff was on there, I would buy it easily. Easily, I would buy that.
Well, it's like that was our high school days.
Yeah. You know, we had the OC, which I didn't actually really watch.
I didn't watch the OC.
But like, we were in that, like, oh... reality teen stuff is like the way to go.
Yeah, so Parental Control started to air February of 06. So my junior year, and its last episode was June 26th of 2010. So only a 4-year window.
But yeah, it was a lot of fun. That show was cool. We only did that show together for a semester.
Yeah.
I did my show like on my own for a little bit.
I feel like during the summer you were still like, yeah, I'll come on and be on Ricky's show. But then
yeah,
you
I came on every now
show.
and then. That was the first time I met Katie, I think, was in the summer. Who we've tried many times to get Katie to do a show with us, and she won't do it.
Which I was talking to Pete, like brainstorming ideas, because I've obviously told him that you were leaving. So he wanted to talk to me about stuff that he was thinking about that we could do. And what I would love to do is get Kate, because Katie is somebody, like Pete asked, he goes, you know people, get people on this MVP podcast that could just tell stories.
Yeah.
Like, just get someone that could tell a story. And Katie's got fucking stories to tell. So if she'd love to come on, I'd love to have her on to tell those fucking stories.
Yeah, there was a lot of cool people, you know, and I don't want to just throw out names because nobody cares.
I mean, Brennan wasn't, like, I'm just...
Brennan's a character.
I'm throwing out ones that I am going to contact in the future to be on these podcasts or be on this one.
Yeah.
Brennan was another one. He's got stories. I would love to have him on to talk about what it's like to be, like, an aspiring comedian, because he's doing the stand-up at, like, the amateur level.
Yeah.
And trying to be that stand-up comic.
Yeah, there was a lot of really cool stuff that went on with that, but college was college, whatever. And what kind, like, after Friday with the Weekend Starters, which was the one we did together, you know, we had you had asked, like, hey, we've got this thing. Do you want to do, like, this sports podcast? And I was like, yeah, cool. I've done podcasts before. This is great. So we did that. It was cool. The Skype thing didn't work out very well. So we inherited the closet, you know? So
what was the closet?
So I think we might have showed pictures of it before somewhere. So you might be able to find that somewhere. But the closet... and I really wish, like, the dream scenario, if we're going to be nostalgic, was me, you, and Dave in the closet.
Yes, with the camera on us in the closet.
Yeah, the camera, like right in front of us. It's weird.
Because so originally how the on-air studio was set up was back in the day, the room that we were in had a window, like a radio station. Yeah. So you would have a producer on our side running, like, the behind-the-scenes stuff, and the on-air talent on there. Well, they changed things around and didn't use it that way. And had, like, blinds in front of it, because it'd be really weird while you're trying to do your show. You'd look over, and it's like, great, someone's editing music, and I'm shy and don't want to come out of my shell.
Something cool that we did, and this was a cool person, too, from the radio days with Patty. We did a, like, haunted stories like thing for the radio station, but you'd get stuff like that. You get some people recording things separately, and this is our college radio station, so it's like we're in the closet of a college radio station, and when we talk about a closet, we're literally a closet.
Like, it is narrow, thin. Like, you, Dave, and I were all in one line, and it was basically we had to go like this to talk to one another. And it was, so, okay, like, and you would say something, well, Mark, what you were saying, Dave, get the hell out of here.
Right.
So what you were saying.
We had 2 microphones.
Yes.
So Dave and I shared a mic.
So imagine these mics, but basically on table stands that we had to, like, you two had to share, and then I had my own.
Yeah. Because, of course, Ricky's got to have his own.
Dave could have shared with me, but Dave kind of liked you. There was the one blooper where you like
spit on Dave,
and you're like, sorry. It's like you're finished talking. There's a pause, and you go, "Sorry, Dave."
Yeah, because spit on. There's some great days in that closet.
Pissing in a trough.
Pissing in the trough is my favorite. Some blooper, which I think we lost. I think it's gone.
So I'm gonna give the backstory. Yeah. It was basically at that time. The Onside Kick has taken on so many different forms.
Yeah.
It started out as an everything show. Then it turned into a Chicago sports show when we were on Fansided Radio. then eventually we were like, fuck it. It's the onside kick. We should just talk football.
Yeah.
And that's when we turned it into just football. That's when Brandon came on and we had the college podcast. And then we kind of grew into what we were today. But we were talking baseball and the Cubs, and Dave, being the asshole he is like, well, what's so great about it? You got a trough. Just piss it in a trough. If I go to Wrigley, I'm going to piss in the trough. And it was just pissing in the trough.
Ricky, you like pissing in the trough. That's what you like?
Asking me if I like pissing in the trough, basically.
And that's the thing, too. Like, you know, so you were in a grad program at this point. I was still, like, in my last year of college, I think. And Dave was working full time.
Dave was third shift.
Yeah. So he would come, like, exhausted and do these
Twitter
shows.
His Twitter profile picture.
Yeah, it's in the closet. It's a picture of, we were doing a podcast, and Dave literally fell asleep on the floor, and we recorded the podcast while he was sleeping on the floor. And the thing was, too, for a lot of these, we would record right after your radio show. So I would come to the radio show. We would do a 3-hour show.
I would do Friday 3 to 6, and then from 6 on we'd record.
Exactly, which would be like we would wait like an hour for Dave to show up. Then Dave would show up. We would shoot the shit for 2
Tommy
hours. B? Yeah, Tommy B. We had this guy, Tommy B. is awesome. Does he still do his show?
I think so. He did the best bit on a radio show ever, where he just reads the paper.
Yeah.
He would just open the paper and just start reading it.
And it
made it so interesting.
It's really hard to describe Tommy B, but we'd be recording, and we've got like a foam piece over the windows for better recording and sound quality. And you would just hear him start yelling.
Yes.
And he would just be yelling about something and be like, what the hell's going on in there?
I fucking love Tommy B.
And he's just like that guy. He's just like really crazy.
I would love to have him on too.
He got in trouble with the nuns for calling his show the Clam Bake.
Was it the nuns? So
it was the nuns next door.
Basically, it was the school. It was
because the nuns
school.
complained.
So what it was his show used to be called the Friday Night Clam Bake because he's a huge Elvis fan and it's an Elvis reference. Well,
I mean, kind of.
People thought it was referring to weed, reported to the school.
Which I still think it was.
I don't think it was the nuns. I think it was
was
somebody who didn't like Tommy B tried to do it to get back at him. And then basically the guy who was in Pete's position before him, when Pete was a student, was like, hey, Tommy, my hands are tied here. Like, you got to change the name. And that's why his show became the Friday Night Train Wreck, because he couldn't use Clam Bake.
Yeah. And I still fully believe, like, if you want to say that's a Elvis reference, I get it. It is, but it's also a weed reference. There's no doubt about the fact in my mind that's a weed reference too.
He knew what he was doing.
Exactly. But anyways, so it would have crazy stuff going on. Like, we'd be recording till midnight all the time. And I know the Fast Break still does that and stuff at times. But like, that was very much what it was. It would take all day. We were still like young 20s. And it was pretty crazy. Dave fell asleep on the floor. My favorite one was your guy who wears a kilt. Sean, who this one time, this guy who this is the first time I ever met him.
He just sat in the corner playing Pokemon.
No, he didn't sat. He stood. He stood behind me playing Pokemon.
I thought he sat in the chair.
There's not room.
I thought there was the other chair.
He might have sat down at some point.
He sat there.
But I was pretty sure for a long time he was standing there, and it was weird. And I'm recording this podcast, and this guy's playing Pokemon behind me in a kilt.
He just had his 3DS.
It's the only time in my life I've ever met this guy.
He just had it was a DS or a 3DS.
Yeah.
And he was just playing Pokemon on it.
Yeah, and it's like,
I'm like, hey, I got to record this thing. He goes, hey, do you mind? And I said, sure, why not? It was like the same thing, and I was in your shoes. Brandon, one PTP, and I love his friend Jack. Jack, who was on the basketball team when we were in college. He was basically like, hey, Jack and I are going to see a movie, and instead of like going out of the way to pick him up, do you mind if he just sits in? And literally right over there, as I'm pointing, he sat in a chair, the chair that's right over here, just sat there and listened to us do the podcast. Well, Jake's dad did the same thing.
I was just going to say about Jake's dad. Jake's dad, I'm like, I'm coming to record this thing. You guys are recording with Jake, and you guys took like 5 hours.
Yeah.
But I get there, and I'm like, what the hell has this guy's dad been doing for all this time?
What were we going to record after that?
I think the onside kick.
Was it the onside? That's right, it
Yeah.
was.
But I'm like, what the hell has this guy's dad been doing on the south side of Chicago for like 5 hours?
He sat right over here and played chess on his
I'm like,
tablet.
is he going to like Inglewood? What's he doing? Like, and no, he was in there. I was shocked that he was just sitting there the whole time, and I was like, oh, I mean, I guess what else is he gonna do?
At first he asked like what bars were in the area, but then he's like, I'll just sit in here.
You can go to the one that the students go to.
Yeah.
That's fun.
I would have pointed him to some of the other good ones. I almost said where, and
yeah,
that's a tricky situation.
Yeah, but anyways, so we did a lot of fun stuff. And to me, what I always kind of give some credit to, because I love the show, and the show's is gone now, is a graphic conversation. Because like when we were doing this, I went to you and was like, hey, I got this idea for this nerdy book club. We're gonna read comic books. We're gonna talk about it on a podcast. And like then we had these two things, and somehow I forgot how, but I got like
Geek Speak.
Yeah, with Geek Speak, I got in contact with some dude.
Eric.
No, not Eric. What was his name?
I think it was Eric.
It's not Eric. I guarantee it wasn't
Aaron?
Eric. No, it's not with an E.
No, an A. Was it an A? Aaron?
I feel like I had to look it up. I'm going to look at my phone as I do this because I have his number still. But anyways, I get in contact with this dude, and you know, he wanted this on. He loved the idea, and I'm like, cool, we're going to make this happen. I go to you about it, and you were obviously super into it because we're both nerds, and it was like, cool, we're going to do this. As you can tell, I'm really stalling to find this guy's name, as I have too many random names who I don't remember in my phone.
It wasn't Lyle, Brian, or Ben?
I don't think so. I really have to. I need to delete.
Geek Speak Network.
I need to delete names
you
in my
found
phone.
another one. Bloop, 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 bloop. That was the most annoying. I'll be honest, that was the most annoying shit in the world.
Yeah,
hey,
it wasn't great.
You found another one. They also had the magical
minutes.
Yes, magical minutes where she talked about Disney.
Yeah, which was cool, but like, yeah, it wasn't great. But we were on this network with a graphic conversation.
Yeah, I don't think they're. I'm looking for Geek Speak Network.
Oh, they're totally dead now.
Like I think they're like I was gonna say dead completely.
Yeah, they're gone. And it was Henry.
Henry.
Yep,
that was it.
Henry San Miguel. Yeah, I've got too many. And that was the thing with the radio station. We do interviews and stuff. So I have all these like band dudes' phone numbers in my phone book still.
I will say,
I'm like, who is this guy? Oh yeah, that's right, that band.
Interjection here. Best band I've ever dealt with was one where I missed their call because I fucked up the time.
Yeah.
Or he fucked it up. I thought he was calling in Central and he called in Eastern. So he called in. So what? I thought the interview was at 5, so he called in an hour early. And I listened to the message because Brennan's like, hey, there's a message for you on the machine. And he's like, yo, hey, Batman, this is, hey, Commissioner Gordon, this is Batman calling the hotline. And I'm like, okay, you're fucking cool. You just referenced the bat phone Commissioner Gordon.
Yeah.
Like, you're cool in my book.
So many awesome interviews. I mean, honestly, I give huge credit if you're going into college, do college radio. I encourage it to anybody.
Dave and I we got to go to Warped Tour 3 years in a row for free. Interview bands.
There was like 2 years where every concert I wanted to go to I went to for free. And interviewing bands. I've met most of my like musical idols. I have some of their phone numbers, like, which is cool. Well, I don't call them because it's weird. But
Katie, like you mentioned,
yeah,
she was really big into Anti-Flag.
Yeah,
not only got to interview, I think it was Justin.
But the guy wants to pay her too.
Justin from Anti-Flag, but got his number
and texts her like every time they come to Chicago. That's for a different reason.
Well, naturally,
right? But yeah, I mean, there's so many of those cool, like, you know, Mike Todd, one of my favorite bassists. I got to do the very first interview for his new band. You know, I met Claudio Sanchez and his wife in person. I would never have been able to. Well, I would have been able to meet them, but I wouldn't have been able to like hang out with them if it wasn't for that. You know, a lot of those really cool Chris Conley from Saves the Day, Max Bemis from Say Anything.
If we want to go into interview stories, Mark, I've got a whole bag of them.
I'm just saying,
I'll pull some out.
Do college radio because you get all these awesome opportunities. It's super cool, and you never have to pay for concerts. But anyways, so all that happens, and we do this Geek Speak thing. Geek Speak didn't really work out for us. We went on a graphic conversation where we just took it off the network, and basically it was like, all right, we have a football podcast and we have a geek podcast. They are not related at all. We need to make them related somehow. Let's make our own network. And we decided MVP because it was a sports thing.
Well, you came up with it.
Well, first we just had MVP just because it was a sports thing, and then it was like one day I'm driving into a studio and I'm like,
you just had an epiphany.
Wait, most valuable podcasts. It's so obvious. And I had to search it on Twitter.
Like
I had to search it on Google.
Hit you in the face.
Like I had to make sure it wasn't already a thing because it was so obvious. And it wasn't a thing. So we took it and it was ours. And yeah, it just
our
kind of worked out.
original logo of like the chopped
MVP,
letters that had the shadowing behind it.
Yeah, it was
and then
awesome.
The one comment that's like, if you redo your logo, I'll sub to you on Patreon. So I was like, fuck it, I'm redoing the logo.
And you still haven't done it.
No, he hasn't even commented.
We are waiting for you for that.
We don't need him now.
We
got a
are
basic
still
Patreon.
waiting patiently.
But I mean, and that's how basically we got the logo that you see.
Yeah, the hard thing about it was too is we had the Onside Kick, and I don't remember how many of the Onside Kick, like the YouTube channel. You guys can search the Onside Kick on YouTube, and our YouTube channel will pop up.
I'm looking at it.
How many subs did we have on there? We had like 1,000, probably.
No, 106.
Oh, all right, not that many. But we do have that one like Jimmy Garoppolo video that has a lot of views.
Yeah, so the Jimmy Garoppolo, that was a draft film breakdown, has 26,000 views.
Yeah, that was huge. You know, you mentioned 100 subs. Like, I always think about that, and we get a little jaded at times, I think, or a little spoiled. Like, so we're doing this thing, and at one point, Dave's working full time. He's busy. He's got his house, and
I don't even think this wasn't even the house. This was just him working third shift.
well, he had the house at the same time too. I'm pretty sure because when we were in the closet, he was in the process of buying that house.
Was he?
Yeah.
I just know,
because I remember multiple conversations looking at his computer.
I just know he was working third shift, and that was the reason why. Because he fell off the face of the earth, basically because he was asleep when we were alive, and awake when we were dead.
I remember him going through the home buying process in that part because he bought his house before I bought mine, and yeah, Dave fell off the face of the earth because he had to, which is completely fine and understandable. And it was just you and I, and we like had this weird, like we tried to do some gaming stuff. We like would do after game game recaps.
Which, by the way, you want to know the funny part of it? We recently got hit with not bad copyright strikes, but somebody trying to copyright claim our Wolf Among Us videos.
Oh, nice.
It's like, dude, those aren't even monetized.
Like
Good
4
luck.
years old.
Good luck, buddy.
Yeah, and like we would do a lot of that stuff. We were trying to do a lot of extra stuff.
We did like Q&A videos.
Yeah.
Like,
but,
what's your biggest dream?
Right, like some of this stuff was like a little bit either like right before the Onside Kick. Like the TOK channel became just weird and didn't really work. And like with the older graphic conversations, we had to put those on my personal YouTube channel.
Well, with that, because I'm looking at it now, so the history of that channel was basically, it started out Dave and I, it was us in front of a camera, and the camera sat on top of my big screen TV in the basement.
Yeah.
And it was us on my basement couch. And there were so many videos where I'd be at home, so I wouldn't be wearing socks like I'm not right now. And people would freaking yell at me in the comment section, put some fucking shoes on, put some socks on. It's like, dude, I'm at my house.
Right.
There's a comfort level.
I have welcomed you into my house right now.
Because I would just sit Indian style on my
crisscross
couch.
applesauce.
Crisscross applesauce. On my couch. And then eventually, like, it became videos like, you did one Bradley Beal versus Derrick Rose.
Like in my bedroom at my parents' house.
You did another one, should the NFL expand the playoffs? Jamarcus Russell makes a comeback.
Because we were trying to do like a video every day for a while. We were doing some gaming stuff too, and like it just was this mess. But like the thing too is there was a time
we didn't have thumbnails either. Like
it was just us.
Your video, it was like whatever screen capture it made. That's what
we
using.
didn't know what we were doing. It really is the moral of the story. We really had no clue. But it was fun. You know, we would get excited if we got like 10 views. You know, and we got 100 views. It was like groundbreaking.
We got the double digits, man.
Right? Like there was a time where we had nothing. Like we had no subscribers. Eventually we had 100 and it was the biggest day ever. You guys can find that video. Like it was a big deal, you know.
Was that one of the first? I think that was one of the first we put on the MVP channel.
Sit there and be like, wow, we have all these people looking at something, and we have multiple ones where you get 5 digits watching, and we have 16,000+ subs. You know, it's awesome. It's very humbling to think about where we came from. I remember that summer very, very well. It's because it was I think I was out of college. I was out of college at the time, not having a job really, like, you know, struggling to get a job after college, and like just not really having much except for this, you know, kind of a thing.
4 years ago, you did a video called E is for fucking eat me. Do you remember what game you were playing?
The toast game.
I Am Bread.
I Am Bread. I love that game.
Where you basically had to use the keyboard keys to stick along and make your way over to the toaster.
We were edgy.
And flop along.
We were edgy back in the day. Yeah, we did a lot of
4 years ago.
We did a lot of random stuff like that.
You did some Hyrule Warriors.
Yeah, and it was just like it was a lot of fun. I mean, it was college. I didn't have a job at the time. Well, I was after college, and I still didn't have a job, which is great. My parents probably loved that. And I was living at my parents' house.
You made a Bloodborne character.
Did what we did. Yeah. Well, that was with my YOLO Let's Plays, where I did like 3 of them, I think. Well, the whole thing was you only live once, so you play it on the hardest difficulty. You play until you die, and then you're done.
With Metal Gear Solid too.
Yeah, you play until you die, and you're done. If it lasts 2 seconds, great. If it lasts 5 hours, well, that's how long it lasts.
And remember when I did the CNanners thing, where like we had one think before you tweet, hose, bros before hoes.
Oh yeah, where you like
where
would
it's
talk.
basically like I'm just gonna talk over this Call of Duty clip.
Yeah.
I'm gonna tell you a story. And hey, CNanners is doing it. Why can't I?
Yeah, which I mean, why can't you? You know, he doesn't own claim to that.
It was just weird that like we didn't really have an identity yet.
No, we just kind of did whatever, and like MVP, Most Valuable Podcasts, kind of became that thing where like we finally had this identity. And for a while, like it was just you and I doing it because, like we said, Dave was busy working, being an adult. So just you and I doing stuff. Eventually, Brandon joined in to do the Primetime Podcast.
The point where it got like to where I see the official. Yes, we started before, but for me, the official start was June of 2015. I went for a job at my old high school, didn't get it, and I remember telling you even before I found out, hey, if I don't get this, we're going full in on this. And then it was like from that point on was basically everything that you have now. It was like that was the true starting point to where it's like, man, I wish we would have done that
in college
years ago. Yeah.
Like when we had like nonstop time. But yeah, like Brandon joined in. This is a podcast where we can talk about all kinds of things. Phil and Sean did the Fast Break podcast.
Before that, Dave and I did some Fast Breaks.
That's true. That didn't last too long.
Dave came back. We did someone referenced it, that they became a fan because of our Spurs one. Then we did a second episode, and then, because that was me trying to get Dave back in. Like, come on, like, let's do an NBA one. And then what was funny was Sean came on. I want to say this was like 2016, 2015? No, 2016, I want to say.
Sounds about right.
And it was basically, hey, if it was him and Phil want to do a podcast, go ahead. You guys can do a basketball podcast. And Dave, and he'll tell Sean this to like the day he dies, Dave was not a fan. Dave thought it was garbage. It basically made Dave so upset that he's like, fuck it, I'll come back. Fuck it, I'll come back and we'll do it right. And then it became what the Fast Break is now, where Sean, Dave, and I do it every week.
Yeah, eventually Johnny shows up. Graphic Conversation was already around. We add Too Old to Game. Too Old to Game, if I'm going to say I wouldn't call it a regret, but like one thing I wish I could have done more was Too Old to Game, because like I apologize to you and Dave on this. I don't think you guys mind, but like I kind of made that podcast happen.
We joke around about it.
Like I was the one who like made that podcast happen. Of like, hey,
I threw the idea out there. You pushed for it,
and then I was like, yeah, let's do it. Because I'm not gonna lie, the entire time we've been podcasting, I've always wanted to do a video game podcast. But we've always been the sports guys.
Because we came in to do an E3 one. And I threw the egg out there because I'm like, I'm down for it.
Yeah.
But I don't know if you guys are down for it. And you pushed for it.
I was like, I want to do this.
And then I like looked, I'm like, hey, this could be our bet. This could easily be our bet. Yeah. And then who do we want? Dave, let's force you to be the host.
Right. I was super into it, did it for a little bit, and then just work and life got in the way, and I constantly missed on that podcast. Even like this last one, this would have been the last, well, when we're recording it, this last week, this Thursday, I was so in. I'm like, I gotta do one more. I've missed like the last three. I gotta do one last Too Old to Game. And then it was like, we have to meet with our lawyer. So I can't.
Here's the thing though, like,
it doesn't.
Just because you're leaving doesn't mean it's like you can't never come back. Like, not like a, hey, Mark's like,
I'm dead now.
If you were like,
you're dead to me.
Hey, can I come on to, like, let's say years down the line or months down the line? Hey, can I come in for a Too Old to Game? Yeah, sure. It's not like we're going to fucking like, oh, you're dead to me.
Yeah, exactly. I worked with a guy who, whenever someone would leave, he would say, like his way he would say goodbye to people was like, all right, have fun. You're dead to me now.
You're dead to me
like
now.
He would just walk away then.
You're dead to me now.
It was the best. But yeah, I mean, that was a fun. We had a lot of these like extra stuff that we did, and it took a while to get Most Valuable Podcasts to the point where it probably should be. We were kind of young and dumb, but you know, the thing about all of this is really like, this was our 20s, you know, like we did this for basically our entire 20s, pretty much. I mean, when you include the radio part to it too, that covers pretty much everything.
I've been doing, if we count radio, since I was 18.
Yeah.
Because I started radio in college, basically did that for, I was a producer for a semester, then had my own radio show a semester. Then my sophomore year of college, I was the deputy music director. So basically that job was, at that time, talking to the metal, the hard rock label. So I got to deal with a lot of the metal bands. I went into a big metal phase because you're listening to the music. Obviously, you're going to grow an attachment to it. And then junior and senior year, I was the program director, so I was kind of running the ship.
Yeah.
And then it was podcasting from there on out.
Yeah, I think I had the internet radio stuff. I think I was 21 when that started, because we would go out and drink after. So yeah, I had to have been 21. And yeah, I mean, until now, I'm 28. So it's basically like my whole 20s. I mean, it's weird when you think about it. You know, I've gone through some different relationships in the times. I got reacquainted with my wife because we went to high school together. And we're not high school sweethearts or anything like that, but like we started dating while MVP was going around. A lot of respect to my wife. She never really questioned it. It was just this is a thing that you do, and I'm going to like miss you like 2 days a week.
Which I was on the other side of that, where I dated a girl where it was basically a constant tug and pull, where I told her ahead of time that, because back then it was we weren't as efficient with our time, and still today, like, we're not people that, unless it's like we have to get out of here in a certain amount of time, we're people that'll come in, shoot the shit, all right, let's record. So we would basically, it'd be like 4 or 5 hours, and she'd be like, well, what's going on here? And it's like, well, I'm fucking doing this. Like, this is what I want to do. So I was on the very opposite side of that, where it was basically like, choose that or choose me. And I was like, bye, honey. I was okay with saying that.
See you later.
It's like, see ya. You're not going to win this bet. I know what you thought you were trying to do.
Backfired.
But it backfired.
Yeah.
So that's what I think of when you were like, she was really cool, never questioned it.
Never asked questions about it.
Some of us are the lucky ones, Mark, and some of us are the unlucky ones.
I don't want to do one of these things, but honestly, my wife is pretty awesome. She never questions that. You know, when when we were dating early, and I'm like, hey, I'm about to spend a bunch of record money to record a full length record. She was like, all right, cool. Have fun. Let me know how it goes. When I told her like, hey, so I got this song idea and I got a part for you written in it and I want you to sing on it and like we're going to make a band together. Oh, okay, cool. Like we're going to go to this like really expensive studio with this guy with a lot of like serious credits. Shout out to Seth Henderson on that and Always Be Genius. We're going to record this thing and it's like a real deal. She's cool with it. And like, it's a really awesome thing when and it's the same thing on her part when she was like, hey, I've got this book idea I want to write. Would you like write it with me? And I'm like, yeah, this sounds awesome. I've always wanted to write a book, but I never had the patience to like do it myself. So like, yeah, let's do a book together. That's one thing we're working on right now is writing a book together.
That to me, we were talking about it with Dave. Writing a book with somebody.
Yeah, it's tough.
With me personally would be the hardest thing in the world.
Yeah.
Because I'm somebody who one of my flaws is like if I would write something and then that person would just change it without like asking me, I would get pissed. It's like, fucking like, don't change my shit.
You and I were gonna write a comic book together, just didn't really go anywhere.
Yeah. And then that turned into out of that. I still have that idea. Yeah. I've taken that. You can now have it. I'm doing.
Yeah, you can have it. I don't think I really put anything too unique into it.
We wrote a page.
Yeah.
We were going to do it before a podcast, and we were like, wow, this is a lot more work than we thought it would be.
Right? And although I will say there were a couple cool ideas where I'm like, hey, maybe we can get to this that I don't think I ever mentioned or talked about. And I'm like, I do have those in my mind of like, hey, maybe this can be something. But writing with somebody's tough because your speeds are going differently and you're like, just do this, just do that, kind of a thing. And they're like, but I don't even understand what you're trying to tell me to do.
Or if you want the story to go one way and they want it to go a different, like with a character arc where, no, I want them to take this path. No, I want them to take this path.
And it's kind of cool too. So like an interesting thing, the protagonist is definitely like my wife's like brainchild. Like she's really, and I've got certain things that have come from me in there. But then the antagonist really, like even though my wife made the antagonist, I kind of like took parts of it and shaped it a little bit. So like the antagonist definitely has a little bit more of me in it, which is interesting because my wife, as a writer, I think she's a little bit nicer. Where like me, I'm just like, if it was up to me, the bad guys would win. Well, kind of a thing.
I'll be honest. That just by you saying that, works. And the reason why I can say it works is because just by dealing with you on a day-to-day basis, Mark, I think I'm going to use this word right. Cool. But tell me if I use it wrong. You are one of the most cynical people that I have met.
I think
where it's not like, and maybe I'm using that wrong, but it's not like pie in the sky, everything is great. Like, if something happens, it's like, yeah, but it could be this. Mark, I'm going to bring you down to earth.
Yeah.
Mark, I'm going to bring you to reality.
Realist. Because I can be optimistic and I can see the light, the brighter side of things or whatever. But yeah, I definitely am very much of like, yeah, but here's some reality here. Like I do that. I hate to say it this way, but I do that a lot of times with MVP where it's like, here's all these awesome ideas and stuff. It's like, okay, but how are we actually going to do it?
Which that's why I thought you and I, that was the one part we always like worked together in a sense.
Yeah.
Cause I wasn't like, I'm in that part, we're 180s. Like I am not like that at all. And with you being like that, I kind of, in a way, brought some of that, like, away from you, but you brought me down to earth a little bit in a way.
It works out.
Because I'm always pie in the sky, like, that's a great idea. I'm the guy, that's a great idea. Let's fucking do it. And you're like, let's think it out first.
Yeah, let's think about how we do this thing.
Where I am just, go. Like, great idea, go.
Right? There's a lot of thought that goes into it.
Like, Too Old to Game was right up my alley. We like it, good. Done. We're doing it.
And that was one of those ones where it was like, I probably should have thought through a little bit more of like, yeah, but I do work nights often enough.
I'm glad you didn't though. Yeah. Because if you didn't, the podcast wouldn't have happened. And I love that we have that.
I love the Onside Cake. It's a great one. We've done it forever, but that's just a very different kind of podcast where you just walk in and talk.
Yeah.
Kind of a thing. So, it's pretty awesome. Other things, since I was mentioning stuff like that, I'm excited for is Lennox Park, which is the band with my wife and I. We're going to do I hope we were originally going to do a Christmas song last year. There was a huge crazy snowstorm and we were both home and we're like, let's write a Christmas, like not write a Christmas song, but like do a version of a Christmas song. We didn't quite get to it because then we had to go back to work. But like this time it's July right now and I'm like, hey, we're doing a Christmas thing. Like we're going to work on it now. So we're going to do a Christmas EP a little bit. We're then going to record music for maybe like a spring release for another EP, which I'm really excited about. We have a ton of music written, actually. It's just like, I really, really loved working with Seth. It's really awesome. And I think he really kind of pushed us to drive a little bit further with stuff. And it was awesome. But the thing is, like, when you go to a big studio like that, it's kind of expensive. And when it comes to music, I'm very much I want to have the say. There's a reason why
You're anal about it.
Yeah. There's a reason why, like, I've had bands break up and been kicked out of a band for, like, not necessarily My Way or the Highway, but, like, I had a band once where I was like, all right, I got this awesome song idea. Here's my part. Other guitarist, this is your part. Bassist, you should probably play something like this. And they're like, can we write our own parts? And I'm like, I mean, you can, but I've already got these parts written for you guys, so like, you don't really need to.
Look, I don't see why you need to. I already did the work
I've already
for
got
you.
these parts. They're really good. Like I'm telling you, man, these parts are awesome.
Where
You're
you
gonna
feel
like
like, hey, if you write your own part, then it's not mine anymore. It's yours.
and it's not even necessarily that it's not mine. It's like, I know it's good. Like I don't know what you're gonna write, but I know this part's good. Kind of a thing.
It's not like an elitist thing, is it?
No, not an elitist thing. It's just like, it sounds good. I mean, I hate to say it this way, but I'm not, like, I don't know. I'm just going to use her name, whether you have your opinions of her or not, but just because she's been in the news. I'm not Taylor Swift. I'm not going to write a top 40 hit, but I know how to write a good song.
Why has she been in the news? I saw something about Justin Bieber had talks about her, but I didn't look into it.
Yeah, it's because her record. So, like any person who gets into a record contract, the record label, like 95% of the time, owns your masters. Masters are the songs. Yeah. Like the final copy of it.
Didn't Kesha go through something like that with her?
She's got a whole other thing about like the contract that she owes music to them and stuff. And but for Taylor, so Machine Head Records owned her masters. They own the songs. They sold them to a dude that she doesn't like. And it's 100% in their power to do so. The question is, some people are saying that they gave her a chance to buy them herself. She withdrew, like she said no, and she's saying she never had the chance to do that. So it's like a little bit of a question mark on whether she did or not. And that's what the big issue is, and she's having a big thing with that. But it's like with the Beatles. The Beatles didn't own their own masters. You know who owned theirs?
Didn't Michael Jackson for
Michael
a while?
Jackson.
Yeah.
Michael Jackson owned the Beatles masters. So it's a thing. Like it's impossible.
And doesn't like Warner Brothers own them now or something?
Probably. It's pretty much impossible for a band to own their own masters. But the Beatles, they're rich. Taylor, she's rich. It doesn't really matter if you can still be successful and do that. But that's also why a guy like Prince, when he would record stuff, it's not completely why. He was also an interesting character.
Well, that's like.
But he would record something and he would never let anybody hear it.
Yeah. Well, that's like, I'm going to interject here. That's when Dave and I, one of the bands we recorded.
Yeah.
One of my favorite interviews was Johnny Christmas and Aaron from Real Big Fish.
Yeah.
And first off, they're just fucking amazing guys. But the thing that they said, and kind of like why it seemed like they hate record labels, is they originally were the Fisher Kings.
Yeah.
And they were a part of Jive Record, and Jive owned all they were originally the Fisher Kings and Real Big Fish. All the Real Big Fish stuff from early on is owned by Jive, and they have no way, like, they can't touch it because Jive owns it. So they were like, well, we just make new music, and now we're not a part of that label anymore.
Yeah.
But they couldn't use anything.
I mean, you can still
before.
You can still play the music. You still get your royalties and stuff like that. And like it depends on the contract.
But he's like, they get paid, so fuck them.
They get paid, but like, you know what? If you didn't have Jive Records, though, no one would have ever heard about you. Taylor Swift, and this is the reason I don't want to get a whole thing about Taylor Swift, but the thing about Taylor Swift, the reason I feel zero sympathy for her is, one, her dad is on the board of that record company. So it's not like she didn't know what she was getting into. Two, her parents were rich. they didn't. It's not like she's some inner city kid that had no idea what they were getting into and just signed on the dotted line because they thought everything would work out okay.
Yeah.
Her parents knew what was going on. They had a lawyer. She's just upset. None of these bands do it, and I got a lot of friends that are in bands. I got a lot of friends that are record producers and stuff like that. And like I'm in Facebook groups and stuff, and I saw somebody ask like, "Hey, what are like our opinions on this one?" And basically, someone summed it perfectly: of if Taylor Swift didn't sign that record deal, she'd be a complete no name right now. Maybe she'd have a YouTube channel that got her some attention, but that's about it.
And that's
how it is for indie bands.
Well, and that's the difference of now compared to even when Taylor Swift came up. Where now, I feel like you could use YouTube, SoundCloud, Spot. Like there are so many different places to maybe be noticed, but you need that record label to give you that. Like,
you can
padding.
get by without a record label. I mean, Macklemore is his own record label.
Yeah.
You've got bands. You got what's their name? Pomplamoose.
MGK for the longest time was
Pomplamoose was a great one. They got completely popular just from Jack Conte's video songs. He's the guy who does Patreon.
Yeah. I think I gotta look it up.
You know, there's a lot that have gotten pop, but you know how many people make songs on YouTube? And stuff. And it's like, so it seems like, yes, this is something you can do, but it's such a teeny tiny minuscule number of people who have actually done it.
It's like, for example, I wanted to make sure I got this right. So the one rapper I listen to, Hoodie Allen.
Yeah.
All 3 of his CDs self-released.
Yeah.
And like he's someone that like in the US, his first one, People Keep Talking, 8.
Yeah.
It peaked at 8
and it's totally possible. It's totally possible to be successful, just like in books. You can be a successful indie publisher. But it's a lot easier if you've got these people doing it for you. There are trade-offs. You lose some stuff, but they do it for you. Yeah. And I'm someone who self-produced my own records and stuff like that coming out. And they're on Spotify. You can listen to them on YouTube. They're all over the place. You can get them on iTunes. You can get a physical copy of some of them. They're there. It's everything. And I've even had some of them that have been reviewed by music blogs and stuff like that. But you got to do a lot of work for it, and you don't really get that much attention. I mean, there's still a box of those records in my parents' basement that are never going to sell.
You're talking about the ones you did by yourself?
Yeah.
Okay.
There's still stuff like that are never going to sell. There's still, plenty of people that'll never, ever listen to my music who would have loved it. There's plenty of people who listened to it and didn't care at all. Things like that. It's hard if you don't have that type of support. You kind of need it. And unfortunately, you lose out on some stuff. But some people get really lucky. Some people get really, really lucky from YouTube and stuff like that, and it just works. And it's a big hit, so it's possible, but unlikely.
It just takes that one, like for us in the YouTube game, it just takes that one video sometimes to just like spark someone.
But the hard thing is sometimes you get that one, and then people are like, cool, peace. And that's it.
Yeah.
And they never come back for anything else. So it's such a crapshoot. It really is. It's such a game of luck. You got to capture their attention, and then you got to keep their attention. There's a lot of bands that have had, a one-hit wonder and never heard from again. There's a lot that have had very successful careers that never got played on the radio, never sold out shows. It's interesting. It's interesting. There's a big, wide range where people only think of a Taylor Swift. They don't necessarily think of a band like Balance and Composure, which was around for a long time, were pretty successful in their own right, in their own scene, but weren't ever huge or anything.
To bring it full circle, that's the one thing you said earlier, like if you're in college, do college radio.
Yeah.
You get to listen to those bands where it's like, there were so many bands when I was in college radio where it's like, oh my God, I love this band. And you're like thinking there's some like big band that's like, wow, they don't have a big following. Why don't they have a big following? They're fucking awesome.
Yeah. A thing that blew my mind was talking to Jess Abbott from the band Now / Tancred, because now she's in Tancred. And talking to her, and like she's talking about like her just normal day job, and I'm like, what do you mean your day job? Like you're in a band, you tour, like her thing is like, yeah, but I need money somehow. The band doesn't make me money. The band's what I do for my passion and hope that it makes me money. This is what makes me money. And that I'll bring back to the Most Valuable Podcast. The unfortunate reality for a thing like this of why I have to leave is because of job stuff. Unfortunately, we do make money from Most Valuable Podcast. To be honest, none of us really cash paychecks. It all goes right back into MVP. But we've cashed a paycheck once. The very first time we got YouTube money, it was like $100. Me, you, and Brandon split it, and that was it. That's the only time we've ever cashed money.
That's when it came, that's the only one that came into our pockets.
Yeah. And I say me, you, and Brandon. That's the only people that were there. Because that was the three of us that were there. So that's a long time ago. And to bring it back, I mean, that's the reality of the day job is what makes the money. The dream has always been to have this make money for us, to be able to do that. It's hard. It's hard work. And I'm not saying this in a pessimistic way. I'm just saying this in the sense of it could work out. It could never work out. We could be that band that lasts for a little bit, just never really quite made it. And that's it. They had to call it quits. We can become Taylor Swift. We can become someone in between, that makes a lifestyle out of it, that can afford it. And that's why for a long time we put so much effort into things. We've always tried to figure out what's that thing we can do better. We've got a lot of things working out way better. Patreon's one of those huge ones. Things like this podcast.
We've had so many, the patrons that we've had ever since, start of last year, basically Jake started it. Where Jake was like, I know we had patrons before, but it was like, we had the $10 tier, and it's like, that's going to be our cash cow. And it just worked out so great to where it was something people wanted. And
that was the thing we struggled with Patreon. We're trying to figure out what would actually make someone do something.
And we never, we went in oh, they're doing it, so we should do it. And it's like, well, what they're doing works for them because they're bigger than us.
Yeah.
Where this worked. And now having the tiers, and I still say it, and he says it like I'm mocking him, but I honestly do mean it. The Discord is the best idea Dave has ever had.
Yeah.
I know Dave has had a ton of ideas, but this is the best idea that Dave has ever had because, I open it right now. And if you're not a patron and you're listening to this in July, July 15, 16, you can join the patron for $1. Right now, the conversation that is going on is... So Jake and John are going back and forth a little bit about, I want to say the 76ers, because they're talking about Philadelphia. And it's right now a lot of basketball free agency.
Yeah, so much basketball free agency.
Which Mark is like, please give me some football. Please
Seriously.
give me some football. Or Soapy, please give me some gaming, Soapy.
Right. Yeah, it's just a lot of fun. I mean, those are the things where we try and figure out what works, and that's something we literally did surveys in the past of hey, what do you guys want? Yeah. And it's trying to do whatever you can to make it happen. So, not to be on that depressing note, but so that you don't become that band that you were yeah, I did this for a while. It was cool, but it's over now. Which there's nothing wrong with that. But I mean, you want what you want.
Yeah. And that's the way I look at things right now is I'm going to relate it to, and I know Dave, if you're watching, you're going to cringe a little bit. I relate it to the YouTube channel I watch quite a bit and Kind of Funny, where Greg Miller, I kind of watching them see him as the head of it all. And he would say they had someone leave, and he goes, at some point, he's like, if Tim left, which Tim would be almost the equivalent to you leaving, where it's I'm going to be happy for Tim. I'm going to be happy for, I'm happy for you, for everything that's going on. You're doing so many, Dave and I were talking about, you're doing so many great things with your wife, writing music, writing a book. That's fucking awesome. But at the same time, for us, the wheels are still going to turn here.
Yep.
And I know Dave, Sean, and I, and Johnny are still going to keep going to where, let's say there is a future where MVP is chugging along and you're like, hey, you know what? I would like to jump on in this capacity. That door is always open. And kind of like what you're saying, more realist, more optimist. The fucking future is unknown, so we don't know what it's going to be.
That's why you just got to work hard.
I did not expect this episode to be like as we hit a lot of things.
Yeah.
And we kind of took a little bit of a journey. We teased some things.
It's fun. That's what it's supposed to be.
I love these episodes.
Yeah.
Like this is what I want the MVP podcast to be. Mostly because, like I told Pete when I was talking about it, like if I have someone else on for, like, let's say I have Katie on.
Yeah.
Because we mentioned Katie earlier. How I would want it is kind of like the John Moxley podcast on Chris Jericho's podcast, where John Moxley was the guest. He just fucking went. And like for you, you're just fucking talking, and I'm just here just like adding this,
being part
at that point, throw it here, direct it here, but letting that guest kind of have the floor to basically tell their story and give a different input.
Yeah, I think it's a lot of fun. MVP's been an awesome part of my life so far, and I say part of my life, but it's not like it's like, you know, gone forever or anything. But, you know, like I said, all this radio stuff and podcasts, it's been such a long part of my 20s. It's been great. We've had a lot of people come on. I mean, we've had people that brought their show on for a little bit and didn't work out, and they left, and that's fine. It's been cool. It's been fun. We've had some awesome patrons. We've had some awesome guests on shows. You know, you mentioned Jake, but like I remember when like Christian was one of our early guests. When Johnny, and you know who I'm talking about with Johnny. Johnny B was he was our very first guest, and he was like
Johnny B.
I remember him talking about how like honored he was to be on this.
How nervous he was.
And we're sitting there like, we think this is pretty fucking cool too, because you're like our first guest we've ever had. You know, super cool stuff like that. It's been a ton of fun doing it. I'm not dead. So like people, you know, if you're interested in me and my existence, I still exist. Like, you know, to any of our people, you can follow me on Twitter at @TheMarkWeber, 2 E's.
Like, I'm assuming you're still going to be in the Discord.
Yeah, I'm still in Discord. I'm not going anywhere on that, so I'm still there. So as long as you guys aren't talking about NBA free agency, like, I'll be a part of it.
Mark's like, NFL fans, you can still talk to
every once in a while. There's like that tiny NBA thing I can cling to, and I'm like, hey, I can comment on that.
Raptors in 6.
Right? Hey, I called the finals, man. I knew it. So, but yeah, I mean, you know, I got a lot of music stuff going on. I'm gonna try and like mix more stuff too. Just because I love doing it on my own, so I might as well try and do a little bit more. Writing a book. So, you know, follow me on Twitter to find out more information about that, right?
Well, and that should do it for MVP Podcast Episode 3. I think, I'm going to look it up. I think this is the longest MVP podcast we've had.
Nice.
Because Dave and I did the one about his thumb, and then you and I did Game of Thrones. I know the Game of Thrones one was only like 40-some minutes. Let's see, MVP podcast. I don't know how long the one Dave and I did. If we went for another 10 minutes, we would have had it beat.
That's all right. Dave's thumb is a very, very interesting topic of conversation.
An hour 23. This will probably be close to about an hour 10, hour 13, 14.
Sorry, some of us got to work in the morning.
But let us know what you guys think down below. And if you want to, if you're checking this out in July, you can catch episode 4 as this one goes live. Patreon.com for as low as $1. Patrons obviously see this first, then everyone else. Don't know what episode 4 is going to hold as we're recording this right at the beginning of July, but I want to thank you guys for watching on YouTube. Thank you guys for listening. Mark, it's been one hell of a journey. Hate to see you leave, but the door is always open if you ever want to come back or be a guest here at MVP on a podcast. Make a little spice, maybe too old again. You're like, I want to come in here. The door is always open. Thank you for everything, obviously, that you've done. And to you guys, and to Mark, have a good day, everybody.